Hi everyone. We have Dr. Neil Sastrit-Hurst. He is the MP of Solihull West and Shelley. He came today. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, any one of you would like to speak to Dr. Neil about your concern or any problems or questions? You may raise your hands.
我係一個帶埋我兩個細路同埋我太太嚟英國嘅。我出生喺香港，我嘅文化咧係好接近英國嘅，因為香港就係英國統治150年啦，咁所以個文化大家好接近。但係一聽到 BNO， 我香港環境你知道啦，一聽到話有 BNO 呢個 program 咧，我就帶晒成家人，將我全部嘅財產變賣晒，然後先割。唔使話住獎。我好努力生活，但嚟到呢度之後，聽到話要轉，我已經好努力嗰個 Life in UK 我已經考到啦，但英文試得嗰個 B1，我而家都努力緊，但係去到話轉 B2，我真係冇可能。包括我做嘢，我已經60歲啦。咁我做嘢嗰度，我亦都唔合格嗰個1200磅嗰個情況。但係我嚟到呢度就將我所有嘅財產就已經賣咗屋啦。再如果真係搞唔掂嘅話，我要走去第二度，我已經冇得再走。政府咁樣做法係令到我冇可能再生活到下去。
This gentleman brought his whole family, his wife and his 2 sons to the UK after selling all his property and sacrificing his job and come to the UK because he ever since he was born and bred in Hong Kong, but he believes he has his values are very, very similar to the UK because of the colonial background where the UK has ruled Hong Kong for 150 years. I think you also know the history. When the policy, the BNO Visa was announced in 2021, he was very, very eager to come, and that is why he has settled here for a few years with the whole family. He has tried his very best to settle in the UK, including passing his life in the UK test. And he is still struggling with his B1 test, and he has made his best effort. But he is now very emotionally disturbed that he doesn't think that he will be able to manage the B2 test. He will, but he is finding immense difficulties in doing so. And he is also very worried about the fact that he couldn't be able to fulfill the tax requirement of £1,200 a year. And then because he is already aged 60. So his concern is when he is now, he feels that he now has nowhere to go if the government is proposing these new changes to the settlement and the citizenship requirements. So he is now very worried about, he feels that he has nowhere to go. He may have to sell all his property and considers moving elsewhere, but he is at a loss at this stage. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, sir, because you've shared a very personal story there. And can I just thank you for everything you've done and the contribution that you've clearly made locally and the efforts you've made in integrating within the community. And I really share your view that there is this golden thread that runs through Hong Kong and the UK in terms of the values that we hold together and the values that we share. Do you want me to pause at that stage for you to translate, or is that helpful if I break it down?
My son will be translating.
Okay, fine.
I know a little bit of English, but
And I don't tread lightly. Sorry, I do tread lightly about your emotions around this, and I understand your anxiety around the changes or proposed changes to the English language tests. Now, I think it's really important at this stage to say nothing is certain. These are proposals that are being considered, and as part of that process, there is the consultation. Now, if I was right, you came to the UK in 2021? 2022. So we're looking at 2027 would be the first point where you could apply for your indefinite leave to remain. Okay. What we do know, and I can make no cast iron promises here, that these processes take quite a lot of time. So there's the consultation period. They then have to review the consultation period. They then have to bring forward their revised proposals. There's then lots of scrutiny and back and forth. And then there will need to be a transition period for anything that does pass into legislation. Okay. I genuinely do not think this could be a scenario where they say the bill passes, the legislation comes into force, it gets royal assent, and from that point the rules change. There would have to be a transition period for those like yourself who have come here under the reasonable expectation of the rules as they were in 2022. It would not be fair to change those rules and say, right, bang, it's going to change on that date. There would need to be a transition period. So looking at where you are in your journey to getting ILR, I would envisage, I cannot promise, but I would envisage that you would be caught, if not before that legislation is enacted, in the transition period. Because the last thing I want to see is somebody who shares our values, somebody who has come to the United Kingdom under an understanding of the commitment that we made to you, under the most traumatic circumstances, feel as though that they no longer have a place in the United Kingdom and are forced to move. So I will be fighting on your behalf to ensure that any changes to the rules are fair and do not go back on that commitment that we made to you. Now, it may be that we need to change those going forwards or after a transition period, but it needs to be a sufficient transition period that you are not, for example, caught within them and are expected to change what you thought was your requirement to something that is unreasonable for you to achieve.
Since Dr. Liu has explained, let me do some translation because I think you've just mentioned the most important point for us. Dr. Liu 頭先嘅意思係咧，我哋需要咧係填一份問卷嘅。我相信可能有啲朋友未必知道啦。關於呢個諮詢咧，係其實去到2月12號12 of February 咧就會係有一個問卷一個 survey 係 online， 咁大家咧係需要填翻，即係例如頭先各位可能有啲意見表達咗，咁我哋需要填翻上去，因為咧其實嗰個 consultation 係對於我哋係好重要嘅。即係如果佢嗰個問卷太少人填嘅話咧，其實咧英國嘅政府就會認為我哋係默認或者係默許佢哋咁樣做。所以咧本人自己咧係填咗嗰份問卷，其實係好容易嘅啫，就係大家喺上網嗰度填翻。我今晚咧會翻去咧將嗰條 link 咧再喺我個 Facebook 嗰度嘅 share 俾大家，咁就麻煩大家咧廣發出去，希望咧最多香港人咧係可以填晒嗰份問卷去表達我哋嘅不滿，因為其實呢一個咧就係 Dr. Liu 頭先 mention 到嗰個最緊要，即係雖然佢會代表我哋喺國會嗰度發言啦，但係就即係如果太少人填嗰個問卷，就代表我哋係冇嗰個即係意見啊，我哋需要自己去表達，咁啊所以呢一方面我就特別同大家提一提嘅。咁仲有冇其他 anyone of you who would like to say something?